as you can see, SPD
for a splashing good time.
I come along, you know. I come along in the ring.
I would not want to. I would not.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Wow. It was so hard to hold off to get talk about this with all you guys because, I mean, Bonds and I talked a little bit, but man, was this an absolute home run night last night at Double or Nothing. The fans gave you chills. It's like you never missed a beat. You could tell the performers were riding high based on this. And all I got to say is, well, first and foremost, to set the landscape of our show, that Crayfish was off the grid last night. And so this is the first time Bonds and I have the opportunity to talk to Crayfish about this. No texting, nothing at all. All I said to Crayfish was, buckle up. It's going
Buckle
down.
up.
Buckle up.
Turned his phone off to make sure that he didn't get any.
So
Yeah, I was actually really
yes.
proud that, because normally I'm so plugged in on Twitter and all, and we're all chatting about it all the time.
It's always
I was
fun
actually-
to live chat about it too. Yeah.
I was actually kind of happy that I was able to hold off. I didn't read any spoilers, didn't get anything. Was able to watch it right before this show. So my opinions are fresh, hot takes. I literally just finished it. So that's another great thing about the world we live in now, man. And you could watch it right now if you want. You go on Bleacher Report Live, boom, watch it again if you really wanted to. Really enjoyed that. That's really sweet.
Man, this was Bonds. What were your initial thoughts? I mean, I know we were chatting back and forth, but like just to kind of let it digest a little bit, what were your thoughts, man?
Oh man, I absolutely love this pay-per-view. I think overall it was just they knocked it out of the park. The main event, the title match. I think that every match had its just big moments. There's a couple down spots. We'll talk about that, but I think that we really got to see a consistent, top-notch show. Everybody was stoked. You could tell that like the talent, having the crowd there, just lit a fire under everybody.
That was one of the biggest right away. I mean, one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the show was just the pops that we were hearing. It was, the crowd was so hot for this show. And it really helped set the tone for the whole night. The excitement, the fan base in AEW is passionate bunch. And there were a lot of moments tonight that kind of helped fuel that. I feel like the way that the show played out, and we'll go through it match by match, but I feel like AEW did a really nice job pacing the show, integrating in finishes that would get pops out of the fans,
for sure,
knowing where to place stuff. It was a really good, well-paced show for being like a 4.5 hour pay-per-view event.
Yeah, that's long.
It was, and that's a long amount of wrestling in a row. It was very well executed. I'm actually a little surprised that the Stadium Stampede ended the show. I know the world title match usually is the one that ends a card, but with all the stakes that were on the line and what a huge pomp and circumstance that goes into Stadium Stampede, I do understand why it happened. But when it comes down to pure wrestling, that world title match, holy smokes, was that fantastic. I already want to talk about the world title with you guys.
Well, let's throw up our picks real quick. I mean, this was thank you for everyone who participated in our quote-unquote bingo card rally. I think this is something we'll consistently do.
Success.
We'll announce the official winner later on in our show, and we'll DM them and get the address so we could send them some swag for sure. But, we were a little off. I mean, we all of us had some bold bookings for sure, and it was fun at the end. I like the aspect of a battle royal where you can pick anybody, and then the tiebreaker, and then the triple threat is fun. It was fun to see that we all had different picks for the triple threat on there. I mean, we'll dive deep into that main event later, but I'm trying to think. We each got 6 of 10 right.
Yeah, which is
So,
not that great.
That's not a passing score
it's
if you're
not
if you're
passing.
grading
You
it.
got a D
No,
minus.
I like, looking back on it, in my heart of hearts, I felt like there was no way Cody was going to lose this match against the GoGo.
Right.
With it being Memorial Day weekend. And then when we saw, the video package that AEW put together for Memorial Day was very classy. Really hit the right chords. And then with the way Cody was leaning into it, the only thing that could have been different is if he flew into the ring holding multiple bald eagles. It was super Captain America vibes. So
Uncle
I should have.
Sam, he was like Uncle Sam.
Yes, I should have trusted my gut and went with
True.
Cody on that one.
But we see a star in a go-go, and I feel like this would have elevated his star power so much more. And I think we'll get that as we saw the announcement of next week. I think QT Marshall and a go-go are going to take the victory so they can get some momentum back. Or like what you, Bonds, told me, like, are they going to turn into the Nexus jobber group, We don't want that to happen. It
really did feel like that was the most controversial match ending of the night, though. Our team pretty much across the board went with a go-go because we felt like you said, SPD, that guy, it could have been a crowning moment for him.
Sure.
Cody could have really elevated that guy's star. We'll get into that more when we get to that match. Let's not jump ahead. Let's kind of take it piece by piece.
Yeah, let's start
allow
with
ourselves to digest things
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bonds, man. Tell me about the buy-in. Like, this was an awesome way. It was really cool. The crowd is so hot for both ladies. Like, I can't emphasize enough. Sharonica, you were there, so you lost your voice. Crayfish probably would have lost his voice at
no doubt
7:35 before the show even started, knowing just the anticipation of just doing that. But Deeb versus Rio at the buy-in, we did see a lot of hints. Last week, or last time Deeb fought, of kind of a heelish turn, and we saw even more of that too. The crowd was definitely split. Let's go Rio, let's go Deeb, chants nonstop. But her aggressiveness and her knee slamming and her aggressive holds, the woman of 1,000 holds, like, you could see this turning. And with the natural babyface type of turn that Brit's on the trajectory of, it would work. And she's just so fun to watch, heel or babyface. But like, this was a home run opening match.
Oh yeah, it was great. They dominated this match, and Deeb, I love what she's doing right now. I think that this heel turn makes a lot of sense, especially with Brit. Probably going to be leaning into the face turn here because of just the crowd reaction. You can't be a heel when everybody cheers for you. It just doesn't work. So
yeah.
So Deeb, like, just her mannerisms and her ring style and her ring work, I think it was a great combination to start the show. The very different styles, and I think that the crowd was into it. They loved it, and again, like, Deeb's a huge veteran, and everybody loves Serena Deeb. All of us do. We all appreciate her talent. And Rio, it's great to see her back again. And they announced during the show that, like, she's going to be in the States.
Huge announcement there, because this is the first AEW, first AEW women's champion. Rio, her in-ring style, is she's such a natural baby face. She just you want to root for her. And I feel like, she is so unique in the landscape of this division. She's small, and that's not a bad thing in the big picture. I really find like she has those dynamics that naturally play into a match where you root for her as the match wears on. Deeb, like you guys talked, when we watched this, her perform as she came back, I noticed quickly that she was starting to gain a little bit more of that aggression, right? That she was leaning, the edge to her. And Bonds, this felt like the full-on kind of recognition that, okay, she's going in to this, like, and maybe she's not going to be the typical, like, the loudmouth heel, right? She's not going to be this, like, over-the-top personality heel, but she's going to be a no-nonsense in-ring general. and not care about what the fans think, not do what's in, do what gets you a pop or does what's important, like gets you to get the fans to feel happy inside. She's going to do whatever it takes to win the fight, right? She approaches her matches that way, and leaning into that really told the overall narrative of this match. Did it not, Ryan?
Oh yeah, dude. This felt like a Dax match.
Oh, okay.
It really did for me. That's kind of
The
how
workman
she does
horse.
it. Yeah,
The workhorseman.
The workhorseman, exactly.
Yep, the workhorseman. Yeah,
where it's like very technically sound. Does that heel stuff, but not over the top to try to like get obvious like heat.
right.
Or just like, this is what I need to do to get the job done, and I'm going to do that. You compare Serena Deeb to Bret Hart a lot. That's like your big comparison, and like, I think that this is something similar though. Like, as a heel, that's kind of what I noticed. Like, that's what I felt during the match. I was like, oh, this feels like a Dax match. Like the way it's presented, the way it's playing out.
I like it.
If this, like, I guess it'd be if Dax is wrestling a small talent, you know what I mean, and somebody like that, and that's just kind of how it would feel. Obviously, Dax is kind of big time heel right now because of where he is in the card, but just a typical FTR old school match.
Yeah.
Well,
and
there's
something about Deeb's style that is old school, and that's what draws me back to the Bret Hart comparisons. I've said it for a long time. She just feels very old school. SPD, what were you? I
was going to say, speaking of Dax, I mean, we cannot go any farther into the show. We wanted to cover the buy-in without talking about Stadium Stampede, because I was singing Judas in my sleep last night and all day today. It was like the biggest high note you can end on the show. It made so much sense to close out this way because you have a cinematic match. Obviously, everything wasn't live. I mean, which is fine. That was really hit a home run and then some. I loved every bit of it, and obviously all like the fun cameos. I'm sure you really like that, Crayfish.
Yep.
Ohio State and your boss.
I loved Urban Meyer was out there. That was fantastic.
I predicted the elbow brace kind of coming into play with the Judas effect, but this was a perfect ending. And if you saw any of the after the showing off the air clips on YouTube or any stuff on Twitter, the pop Sammy's been getting is insane.
I'm telling you, man. That's why I picked him. That's why I picked him to be the difference maker, right?
Months ago,
absolutely.
we said babyface written all over him. We thought he was going to turn on Jericho and MJF when MJF was in the inner circle. But from the start of this match, the rappelling down by the
what
inner
an
circle,
entrance!
Inner circle's outfits.
Those are sweet.
They need to sell those vests, man. We could get some Dynamite download leather vests, bro. Be rocking those. Dynamite download leather vests, some danglies, some SBD shades. We're ready to go, man. And the feud, yes, Sammy and Spears had an awesome thing, but I think Jericho and MJF, whole everything about that was pure gold. Pure gold. Back and forth. The comedic act, I was laughing out loud more times than not with that Chris Jericho and MJF stuff. The props he was using and the stuff they were saying back and forth. Stapling that to his head, and then the bat was right there. I can't say enough. Everything about this feud, they're too popular to break up. The crowd clearly loves them. This match was incredible, and now it's just going to open up the next chapter with the landscaped, a fresh paved landscape that we're going to see the inner circle just get popped after popped, and then I think Pinnacle now is obviously back on their heels, and they're going to be wanting a rematch, and maybe it's going to start to get that tag team, the one-on-ones, the thing like that that we've been dying to get, and stretch it out. Yeah, slow it down. Exactly, Bonds. Exactly. Oh, we are an emotional or visual group. We have to stretch it out. The landscapes need to be paved.
Sammy was Bonds and you were on lockstep. We felt like Sammy needed to get the pin here, get and that was our pick as the tiebreaker when we were going into this. You and I both were on the same page that this felt like a match that Sammy needed to really take that crowning moment at the end. What pushed you to say that? And when you look through this, the way this match played out, do you feel like this was sort of a crowning moment for Sammy? Like I did. I feel like this was one of those moments where with a live crowd, This very much felt like the coronation of Sammy Guevara as, like I talked about in our preview show, almost like the heartbeat, the spirit of the Inner Circle. We all know that Jericho is the godfather of the group.
Yeah.
He's the leader, right? He's the general. But it feels like this was like playing off of what we've seen with the story, right? Where Sammy tried to convince the whole team that he never believed that MJF was in it with them. The inner turmoil that he had with those guys, coming back from, and the triumphant return to try to save those guys, then trying to save Jericho from getting tossed off the cage at Blood and Guts. It just feels like this is compounding on that natural story of Sammy. And that's why I felt like it was so important that he got the win. And it was one of those like, man, AEW nailed it to me. I felt like, man, that was absolutely perfect booking at the end. What were your thoughts on that, Bonds?
Well, I mean, I am in lockstep with you, man. I think that Sammy needed the pin because of Blood and Guts, because he was the one that was the first one to say, "Hey, we quit." That was on him, and
True.
And he probably knew better than everybody that MJF would still push him off the cage. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like he had to get that redemption story, and he got that. And he was the only one that's in that ring at the end, like representing the Inner Circle against Shawn Spears, and it was so fitting because we see the upside, we see the potential, we see the just red hot potential babyface that he is on the mic, in the ring. His style is so unique. He showed it against Spears. That's why Spears is such a good opponent. Spears is kind of a stereotypical big man who can do a lot of that kind of stuff. And
that's true.
And Sammy showed, hey, I can kind of get around you and do different stuff and use my agility and quickness and beat you that way and use my wherewithal.
Good call.
He was able to do that throughout the show. When they kept cutting back to them, I thought that was one of the more interesting pairings when they kept going back and forth. I thought that the Spears Sammy one was particularly interesting because they had such a unique setting overall, over and over again. And then at the end, when they got to go in that ring, because I thought, well, I'm sure like you guys did, I thought that it was going to be MJF and Jericho kind of at the end with the way they were leading to it. But then it was those two guys, and I was like, "Oh man, like this is the time, this is the moment." Like I like bingo card right on this one. Like,
I really did when you talked about the different aesthetics of the fights.
Yeah.
That I know that like it might have felt odd at first, but I really liked when they did that visual of the chairman sitting in the room.
Oh my gosh, that room. I was just going to ask you guys about that.
That was so cool, man. Like I really dug that, like that, just that the aesthetic of that with like him on the chair, surrounded by chairs. It was like, come into the battle zone. Like it was just that kind of vibe. It was really cool. I dug that a lot. What were some of the things that jumped out at you most in this one, SPD? I mean, for me, one of the things, for me, one of the things that I like MJF's pants. I don't know what he was
glitter
thinking.
Burberry pants,
like the red rhinestones all over those pants. Like, oh my gosh, that is one of the things that I will definitely remember from this one. Was like that was cringeworthy. Like, oh my god, those were awful. I don't know if he was trying to give the Bucks a run for their money on dumbest gear of the night, but MJF definitely like some hybrid of jeans. Yeah, that was something else. I know that you love, I mean, when we talk MJF, you love talking MJF and riding him a little bit, giving him a hard time. And Jericho certainly was doing plenty of that throughout. What were some of your highlights from this one, bud?
That like coffee room scene early on with MJF and him, and MJF's look on his face just running away, like was pure gold, man. He's got some great physical comedy aspect.
He is
to him,
very good at this.
I mean, that chair, it's so many great sub scenes. The bar fight, they're cheersing, then they go at it, and then Conan's then the DJ, then you have the freezer fight with those pigs hanging there. Yeah. So and then you have the chairman room. I think the chairman room really stood out because it was really lit well and like such a cool concept of him like join me, Sammy, and that. And then of course,
it almost felt like a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
it was
and then
really cool.
Of course, like the chills on, to top it off, like Jericho running through the crowd, hanging over the railing, cheering after he puts MJF through a table, and like you could just tell, like everyone is just like, "It's back, baby! The crowds are back, baby!" So that was so great. And then, of course, at the end, the Judas singing in the crowd. it was just deafening stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the hottest the crowd was for the whole night was when the coronation of the DMD happened. So let's get into that DMD versus Shida. Thank you, DMD. I don't need to go finding a spray tan. She saved me from the losing bet. She came through. The DMD always delivers, and she came out on top in this matchup against Hikaru Shida, which, to me, in-ring styles, this one was quite a battle when it comes to we got to see again Shida.
Sure.
Her striking, guys, she is quite a competitor. We haven't get to see a lot of Shida this year.
Shida.
But my gosh, does she hit some knees, man? That girl can drive some knees with the best of them in this business. SPD, for me, the crowning moment of the DMD winning this women's championship, that was the highlight of the whole show for me. I absolutely loved it. It needed to happen. This is going to be, and especially when we look at the way the card shaped up, we were predicting more changes in the landscape of AEW. This was the only title that changed hands tonight last night at Double or Nothing.
Right.
Pivotal, a very pivotal move in the women's division, felt very needed, very necessary. What were your takeaways on how the way this match played out, and ultimately with the DMD taking the title off of Fushida?
And this was one of those where I kept popping like, oh my gosh, false finish. Oh my gosh, false finish. Oh no, I thought, Rebel's going to cost her, with the crutch and all that. So first and foremost, before diving into being so excited the whole match, as expected, the pop the doctor got
exactly.
We can, as we're talking through this card, we can talk about, I took some notes of who got pops, and that was one of the bigger pops. The Acclaim got a huge pop as well. It was so awesome, man. And, even the commentators said, a vicious Brit is the best Brit, man. And, Bonds and I were talking a little bit too, we almost feel bad for Shida because all this. And, she posted on Instagram with her on the ground and maybe crying or something. But this was amazing, man. What a match. This could have been this. It's hard to pick the match of the night because there's 3 or 4 that I'm I keep going back and forth of.
Yeah.
But this one was delivered at I had expectations for sure, being a title match, but it delivered and then some. It's told a lot of stories. The false finishes were so well done. So many close calls. And it was a really nice touch when Shivani went out there and gave her a legitimate, not a shoot, hug. So
yeah, proud of her.
It was awesome, man.
It felt like this was.
I know we were all team DMD.
It was this needed to happen, right? Yeah. It almost felt like this was it was. I felt so confident I was willing to bet an orange spray tan on it. This one felt like this felt like it was going to happen. And sometimes they can get, as a booker, you can be tempted to get cute and to throw curveballs and to delay that because everybody is expecting it to happen. Maybe we should throw them a swerve. I'm really happy they didn't do that with this. Right. I'm really happy that AEW pulled the trigger, started this new era of the DMD, and I think that
everyone with us, a new era has changed. The DMD baby has the gold.
I feel like they went with the obvious choice, and Bonds, you and I have talked about this before. Sometimes just because it's obvious doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. The fans clearly were chomping at the bit for this. The pop that Britt Baker got tonight as a heel was rivaling the pops of a Hangman Adam Page, which was to start off the show was such a hot pop. I felt like, Orange Cassidy got some huge pops. Jungle Boy got some huge pops. But the DMD winning this title, this whole moment was every bit as big as anything else on the show from a fan's perspective. I felt like the fans were hot for that title change. I know that if I was screaming on my couch, there were people that were live. They had to be going bonkers there, right?
Oh my gosh!
He and I were talking back and forth. And
we
were so excited. That was probably one of our most excited moments, and we were going back and forth about it during the show. We're just like, oh man, like it's time, finally, like we've been waiting for it. And again, I think this is the right time to do it. Have it at a big pay-per-view, have it so fans can see it, because like, we had a year of no fans in the arena with a champion. And like that'd be so difficult to stay over while being a champion with no fans. The only people that are there are your fellow, wrestlers that are trying to get you pumped up with fans, make noise. And that's got to be so difficult. And the fact that they like were able to have that match in front of a crowd and have Britt go over the way she did, because again, like she's a heel in name only. Like she's a baby face. Like people love Britt. Like she's the top of the division.
No doubt, dude.
And it's obvious. And like you said, like Hangman Page like got the same kind of pop as Britt here. And we're gonna talk about Hangman in a second.
Big deal.
You don't need to know.
Yeah.
Right. Hangman's one of the most popular people in the company. So 100%.
It's a big deal, man. And like, the truth of the matter is, when you look at this, there have been moments where we were wondering, like, man, like, where is the women's champion, right? Yeah. I don't feel like we're going to be asking that question anytime soon. SPD, you and I talk about that every week when we do Dynamite Download. The women's division does not get represented by its champion nearly enough. No. And so now that you have now you have the DMD, who we all know is incredibly bankable, she's gold in everything she does. She's going to be on. She's doing the busted open. She's doing like, Dark. She built up her win streak on Dark, so that she's more than willing to do shows like that. Let alone be a face of the company on Dynamite. I mean, all the crossover stuff that they're doing with TNT, the TNT champion with Miro. Yeah. You think that like having a Britt Baker on these cross promotional things, like opportunities for AEW, that's not going to be a home run. Britt is so polished, she's so creative, incredibly funny, intelligent. You could tell she represents. This is a star. This is a star, and in a business where a lot of times you wonder, does the belt make the championship, or does the belt make the performer, or does the performer make the championship? This is one of those rare moments where they come together beautifully. Like Britt built her star power independent of the belt, right? And now she's coming into a situation where organically she's now developed a strong star power as her own character, and now has this women's championship belt to back up all of that. It's just it's a perfect combination. For me going forward too, it's really exciting about, as we talk about changing the landscape, do we go back to, and do we revisit that Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker feud? Because I know, right now we're Thunder Rosa quickly addressing Britt Baker, making sure that she's making it very clear that her sights are still set on the DMD. The target with Britt's mouth and how much trash she talks, she's always having a target on her back. Well, now when she has the women's championship belt, that target, that bullseye got a lot bigger, folks. That's right. You know that Thunder is a hunter. That woman is hungry and she's ready to. And so I feel like there's already that massive, huge opportunity to have Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in a title match, with all these other opportunities now with a fresh new champion. I really am excited about what's going to happen going forward in the women's division under the DMD era.
I think there's a fire at SPD's.
There's a fire alarm going off.
Are you okay?
Yes,
SPD. Are you
everything
okay?
Is okay. But I love that
it's because the Britt Baker segment was so hot.
It was. That's right. And the ultimate reward. When
we talk to DMD, you got to be careful. Fire alarms can go off.
Exactly. That was a hot take, as Mindrunner just said. It was such a hot take, and I love that. Like the ultimate, payoff is giving the belt change in front of fans. It's worth all the hard work for months and months and months. But I'll let you transition while this gets turned off. I'll mute it.
Yes, no problem. Well, and this is a perfect transition, too, for SPD to mute and let Bonds just do the talking, because we're going to be talking about Team Taz, which is Bonds' favorite group. I always love looking forward to reading your columns. Anytime that Taz is on commentary, anytime that Team Taz is involved, I always love it. You are a diehard Team Taz fan, and this started off Double or Nothing with a bang. Tell us about what your thoughts were on how the match played out, which was, pretty impressive when you look at the psychology between these two guys. You saw Hangman have to dip into some wells. I mean, doing what he doing a backflip off the top to the floor on the cage was unbelievable. These two pushed each other to another level. And the whole story of Team Taz and Brian Cage's role in it, that dissension, was the overarching story of this match, was it not?
Oh, man. First of all, this was a great match, great opener. Best way to start it possible. Brian Cage kind of set the pace, I think, which is cool. I like that he was able to set the pace of the match where Hangman, you kind of expect him to at times because of how offensively driven he is as a wrestler. Mm-hmm. He's so much of an offensive force where, he kind of wasn't able to do that in a lot of this. But Taz sold so much of this match for me. Taz told a lot of the story here. And he kind of helped push that story that Cage was telling in the ring, where Cage is kind of breaking away, and you can see that. And it is an ascension for him through a loss, in my opinion. I don't think this loss hurts him at all. I think this loss is going to propel him to a different level. Because Explain that.
I mean, because that's such a non-traditional take, right? Where a loss actually might help benefit a character more than a win. Explain that.
So I think if you guys have been watching us here, I'm a huge Team Taz fan, but I will admit that there's been times where Brian Cage hasn't been used or not used in a way that makes him look like a superstar while he's been with Team Taz at times. He's the FTW champion and a lot of times doesn't wrestle. And so having him in this match where he kind of got betrayed by Ricky Starks in a way, and it wasn't a stereotypical, I'm going to just not help you or betray you. He went out against his word, came in the ring, threw a title in there, and distracted Brian Cage when he was in complete control of the match. And so Cage only lost because he was distracted by his teammate, who he told specifically not to come to the ring. And so now he's got a big reason to not be in Team Taz anymore. And while I love Team Taz, and I would hate to see Brian Cage leave, that story has been being told for months, that he's kind of leaning towards a babyface turn, and he's on that trajectory. And we saw on Friday where Hangman said, dude, your behavior isn't a heel. What are you doing? You can't beat me without your teammates. And then when he told his teammates to stay away, they came in there and cost him the win.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting, very intriguing, and I think that this is going to lead into a new storyline 100%, because Brian Cage is a guy that we all are kind of ready for. We're ready for him to break away and be a singles guy.
That's exactly where I wanted you to get to, brother, because it's we are talking a lot about changing the landscape after Double or Nothing, and this has been one of those where this has been slowly developing. We've been wondering, when is this going to happen? They've done a nice job of pivoting at times to make it feel like, oh, maybe they aren't going to break up. I mean, when we saw Ricky Starks come out and kind of cut that nasty promo, and they all just kind of, all these different things where, after Cage beat Hangman Page with the help of a gang beating, you're like, oh, okay, well, he got the pin over the number one contender, and they all were kind of working as a cohesive unit. Maybe that they're changing directions with Cage's character. Maybe they're going to build Team Taz again because Ricky Starks is on the shelf, right? They had me kind of thinking maybe that's where they're going to go with this. Maybe they're going to hold off on breaking up Team Taz because Ricky Starks got hurt. And they've been presenting things a little differently like that over the last couple of weeks, but this felt like the right way to go. From his character's perspective, he very much feels like you talked about it, Bonds, a guy who wants to stand on his own 2 feet. He kind of he's shown reluctance on going all in on the dirtbag tactics that Taz has offered, and that played into the end of the match where they threw the belt to him. They wanted to have him use it and cheat, and he wouldn't do it. So that was a really nice character moment for him. Even though he lost, it showed, okay, this guy has been having some inner turmoil as a human being on what he should do. And we saw the good, we saw the moral compass play out. And although it cost him the match, we see a new direction for Brian Cage and a light at the end of the tunnel where, okay, this guy, we all see this dude is legitimate. He's the machine. He's done a lot over the course of his career. And his offense is so this is one of the things, even though he's like intimidating and a badass looking dude, his offense is so fun and so jaw-dropping that there is a part of me, like, even though I love my heels, there's a part of me that wants him to go babyface because it is such a natural fit. The guy is just such an easy guy to want to watch and root for. He's just, and for him to him changing sides to a face side, that changes the landscape of AEW a lot. It gives him a strong babyface who could really come as an up and comer. Imagine if he challenged Miro for the TNT title, right? I mean, we just got done seeing two monsters go at it. Add another monster to that mix, and you throw in the machine, Brian Cage. I mean, talk about a gauntlet for Miro, right? I mean, I just think that there's a lot of excitement, a lot of juice comes out of this match on both sides from a character perspective. This was the perfect play. Cage now has drama in Team Taz. He can argue with those guys that, I told you guys to stay out of my business. You know, I want to be my own man. I want to stand on my own 2 feet. He can kind of move towards that babyface vibe. And Hangman Adam Page getting a huge win like this starts to build his credibility back up. After that loss, starts putting him on the rankings landscape, right? Like the potential of getting in that top 5. There's a lot to like coming out of this match. And for being the opener, you know, it hit on all the right levels. We always geek out, SPD. One of my favorite moments is when Brian Cage catches a dude in the middle, just in midair, and he's doing curls with a guy like Hangman Page's size.
Right.
His power. It's not just strength. His power, his control. That dude is incredible. It feels like he's an incredibly safe worker, even though his matches look like he's just destroying people. You know what I mean? I'm really digging Cage's work, and I feel like this match was such a well wrestled all around wrestling match between two pros. I thought it was well done, great opener.
Yes, absolutely, man. And this was, well, let's shift gears to the tag match. And I think a lot of us and a lot of fans were wrong with booking this. You know, we predicted a title change of hands as almost like you said, Crayfish, the transition title, even though, you know, hate to even say that because Moxley is a world champion, you know, and all that. But the Danglies prevailed for sure. And this was one of the best matches on the card as well. You know, the huge pop for the Wild thing, man. You knew the crowd was going to go wild, and there's an absolute huge pop. And not only huge pop for the Wild thing, I feel like Eddie was getting the chants going, the Eddie chants nonstop, Eddie chants nonstop. And it was insane. I loved it, man. I love seeing it. The amount of false finishes here, the abuse Moxley was taking. I mean, there's so many funny moments, such as the little nuances, you know, the Young Bucks typically doing the shield mocking, that tombstone pile driver on the ramp to Moxley. Jeez, man, did he ever go off on that? Is for sure, man. Like, what did you think about it?
Yeah, now is the time to discuss a match that I felt like was really, I guess, wrong. I thought that Moxley and Kingston were going to take this one, and I felt like the way that the AEW's tag team division is shaping up right now is, to me, it's hard to see post this match. I felt like this was the reason why I picked Moxley and Kingston, even though I feel like the Young Bucks are doing the best work of their career, SPD. Like, At least
Sure, I
certainly
agree.
the best in this run in AEW. I feel like they're hitting on all cylinders right now. I thought that the overall way that this division is shaping up, you look at the Bucks have beat the Acclaim. They've beaten the Varsity Blondes. They retired SCU. They beat FTR. Um, I, I felt like this was a moment where it would have been smart. You created this super team, this super group of Eddie Kingston and Moxley, two super over baby faces that get a real organic response out of the crowd. I was we talk about pops, Moxley and Kingston, their pop, the crowd was really cool to see Kingston be able to experience such huge reactions to his work because he's been like an unsung hero, especially in this storyline. Bonds, you and I have talked a lot about it. He's kind of been like the guy who gets beat up and gets worked over, and while Moxley gets to come in and look like the superhero, Kingston's kind of put in the work as kind of being the guy who takes the grind, takes the beating, and then gets the hot tag to Moxley so it was really cool to see such a guy who's such a clear locker room leader in AEW, such a good story for a guy who's had a long career to finally get to this point. It would have been really cool to see Moxley and Kingston take this one, freshen up the division, shake things up a little bit, throw the Elite on their heels a little bit too, right? Like it would have been, I feel like that would have been a perfect opportunity to go that path. They didn't.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of shenanigans involved, which is the typical Bucks match.
The danglies came out.
I mean, it was cool seeing Kazarian.
I love that.
Get involved too. I mean, from a lot, like, I don't know where they're going with his character, but like, if he becomes kind of this like wild card that is just driven by his, and you know, we've seen it on BTE, that hair trigger anger that he has. If he's just like this wild card character who's always stalking the Elite after what they did to him and his best friend, I am totally down with that. Like having him just be like kind of come out of nowhere and be the guy who evens the odds and takes them down. I would be all for that. I was just surprised. Clearly, I picked Moxley and Kingston. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I think that, you know, obviously the Bucks are killing it, Bonds. You love what the Bucks are doing, but you picked Moxley and Kingston to win as well. What were your takeaways from the overall match?
Again, this is another one of the matches that I thought they absolutely killed it. But I was a little surprised. I thought that they were going to go in a different direction. Obviously, with my bingo card, I expected Mox and Kingston, especially with that pop they got, and everything just kind of seemed like the writing was on the walls for some sort of change here. But I think that the match, while it was awesome, I'm questioning like who's going to take these guys out now.
Where do they go from here?
Where do they go from here? Like they've beaten everybody,
right?
And while most of their matches have involved like shenanigans and stuff, and you can kind of maybe pivot and be like, oh well, in a clean match they're gonna lose to somebody, and maybe that's the plan down the line. But I was like, man, like if they're gonna beat Moxley, who was a like long reigning champion, and Eddie Kingston, who's been in the title picture, as recently as this year. What's the game plan here? Because these guys are just like on fire. They're on a different level.
Yes, they've beaten everybody that I can think of. In the tag division, and that's where I felt like, it would be you created again. This is like Batman and Superman teaming up with Moxley and Kingston. You created this super group, and if they can't win, if they can't dethrone the Bucks, who can? Like that, and it left me wondering that. This is one of the biggest takeaways from that pay-per-view is like, who is going to dethrone the Young Bucks? I mean, when we go looking forward in the landscape, I love FTR, but they're preoccupied. They're not getting a title shot anytime soon, I don't think. I mean, I know that Dax is bitter about it, and understandably so. But they're kind of preoccupied with Santana Ortiz, and we don't think that the Inner Circle Pinnacle feud is going away anytime soon, right? They just beat the Varsity Blondes. all ego and Scorpio Sky, they lost a big match tonight, and quite frankly, their dynamic doesn't feel like a great pairing with the Young Bucks, because all four of them are just braggadocious jerks, so it doesn't work.
Anything like they would team up with the Young Bucks and their buddies.
So you start to look around and you start to wonder what's next for this division. And that's where I'm kind of stumped. And that's why I said, like, hey, man, bring in authors. Bring in something. They're going to need to do something dramatic to shape up this division, because more so than even Kenny, dude, because I know Kenny, the belt collector, he looks like he's going to have a long, dominant reign.
Sure.
But I think that there are some clear pieces of the puzzle coming together as to what that story is going to mean and who's going to dethrone him. I don't see that logically coming together right now about the Bucks. I don't see the Bucks dropping the belts anytime soon, guys.
Not after last night.
Beating Moxley and Kingston, and doing so. Really, I mean, like, again, their showmanship. They were so over the top. It was absolutely compelling and hilarious content. These guys are killing it right now.
They definitely are. I mean, it took 4 BTE triggers to put down Mox, and that is just absolutely brutal. Oh. And I don't think I've seen, one real quick before we switch to the Battle Royal, that a 450 splash by Young Bucks before. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen that out of them in AEW yet. But it was just another part of their arsenal, man. This was great. And, I think we could discuss this on a Friday Night Flights, even though we're doing a live watch along again this week. Maybe during the commercials, we can pick some more Young Bucks opponents, but they're facing Pac and Penta and Dynamite, which is pretty crazy. Like, obviously, Pac and Penta should win on paper, in my opinion. But we could talk about in depth. I know we could talk about in depth or a good topic of, like, where does Mox and Kingston go? Where do who could possibly beat the Young Bucks and all that? But I'm happy to talk about the Battle Royal, because this was my pick. Jungle Boy comes out on top. The fan favorite, Christian Cage, which was a lot of you guys, or you Crayfish. Bonds was the Joker, and I picked Jungle Boy. He's been kind of MIA a little bit, but we know his in-ring work ethic and the way he can handle himself in a battle royal. Well-deserved, a great respect at the end from Christian Cage, telling him to not to blow the spot. Time, you deserve it. It's your time. Yeah. So talk about pops. This was a perfect match to really showcase what people have for the crowd. I liked the style of this, doing suits at a time, and everyone getting their own entrance per se. I thought Matt Hardy was absolutely hilarious this whole match with Private Party. But there's a huge pop for 10, a huge pop for the Varsity Blondes even. Penta got a huge pop.
Yeah, Penta with the Joker gear was freaking awesome too.
Max Caster had a humongous pop, and of course Jungle Boy's pop as well. Before the match and after the match. And it was pretty fun. Who really stood out to you during this match, and what did you think of the addition of Leo Rush as the Joker?
Well, for me, SPD, I felt like you should be beaming ear to ear, because when you pick the Battle Royal winner right, that's some serious stones, man. That's impressive. And like you said, Jungle Boy was kind of a dark horse. I like my favorite thing about this, the way this was booked, and I feel like I picked Christian. And maybe it's because I've been a WWE fan my whole life since I was little. It felt like, that's the obvious pick, but like this was such a brilliant way to end this one. You had the established grizzled veteran who was really like the number one entrant, great story, but if he won that over Jungle Boy, the live crowd would have turned on them so fast and shoot, like they were you could tell they were getting ready to boo if Christian beat Jungle Boy. Like you could tell that was not going to go over well. And I just felt like this was a really great, from a booking perspective, from TK's perspective, brilliant move in that you had the favorite who is this grizzled veteran who's been established as a top tier guy, was your biggest signing of the year, all this stuff that you hyped up massively.
Sure.
He made when he first came in, he made it clear he wanted to go after Kenny Omega and the title. And to do all that and then pivot and have your homegrown young star go out on top, that's a smart business move.
Right.
That's a big picture, smart, savvy move. You have that you immediately create a massive star moment for Jungle Boy. Huge moment, and you used Christian perfectly to play into that overarching story and catapult JB into this next stratosphere of his career. We know that JB versus Kenny Omega will be
in 2 weeks.
Such an awesome match, dude. Like from an in-ring perspective, that's going to be a banger. Like, because you know that Jungle Boy can go, like, and keep up with Kenny, best bout machine. He can keep up with him from a stamina standpoint. He's going to push the pace. Like, that was such a great big picture moment. Other things that jumped out at me really quick, I thought like the Hardy Family Order obviously looked fantastic. That's a good one, Bonds. The Hardy Family Order, I really dug how Isaiah Cassidy and Marquine were kind of protecting Matt Hardy throughout this. I thought that was really well done. I felt like Powerhouse Hobbs came off looking like a big deal in this match. And that's a good thing because that guy has a really bright future. So I liked that a lot. But I felt like the biggest takeaway from me was not only that Jungle Boy won, but how they booked him to win. And I just thought it was a very intelligent, forward-thinking decision by management. I thought it was fantastic. Bonds, what were some of your biggest takeaways?
Well, again, like mirroring your Jungle Boy comment, man. This is the night I was kind of expecting from Orange Cassidy. That's why I picked him in my
You did.
card, right? So like I'll explain that since I wasn't able to talk to you guys about the pre-show. This was like something that I was like, oh man, well maybe they're gonna give this big pop for somebody here. And I was thinking, well, in this title match, you have a dark horse contender.
OC was definitely presented as a dark horse. Yep.
Right, like somebody you don't expect. And they were like, even Kenny was treating him like a joke. So it's like, this is kind of a great opportunity to have somebody like go over and that ended up being Jungle Boy instead, which is awesome. I think that's such a brilliant stroke of genius, especially when, again, a lot of people were expecting Christian. You saw on social media before the match, like everybody was picking Christian. Part of that was the landscape of it. There wasn't a lot of people in the battle royale that I was like, man, this guy is gonna be somebody that I could see fighting Kenny.
Yes, especially like with QT Marshall being a late pull out of it. There were some of the like I agree with you. I think that the landscape of the battle royal. That's why you picked the Joker to win. Yeah, right. Was because you felt like, okay, like looking at the way this is lined up, and to SPD's point, Jungle Boy wasn't necessarily on a hot streak. Jungle Boy wasn't necessarily being presented as a main event guy in recent weeks. Right. So I totally understood why you leaned into the Joker being the potential one, because that's a big surprise. It could have been anybody. I felt like Leo Rush was a lean into it. I felt like Leo Rush was a really nice Joker play.
Leo, he had some big moments.
He had some good moments. His offense is fun in the
like
landscape.
A little ninja.
Yeah, he's like he's a little spider monkey, and he wrestled like a little spider monkey at times, going underneath people's legs and kicking them.
Yeah,
and
that stunner was awesome.
Yeah, I mean he brought some energy to the match, which was great. Like, I don't think that I felt like it was a perfect play because it wasn't a guy where like, oh man, if he's the Joker and doesn't win, what a bummer. He's but it was a nice like,
and the way he was eliminated was smart. It wasn't like he got thrown out by he was trying to eliminate Hardy Family Office and like got eliminated by Matt while he was trying to eliminate the other two. So it was like a smart way to eliminate him as well.
Yep.
So like you kind of protected him. You protected your new toy. And then you kind of got rid of those other guys when you were like, okay, cool. Now we have the top three here. And I think having Matt there was awesome because he's funny. He earned it. Matt earned that spot.
He was so great.
Oh, yeah, he was funny the whole time. And then, but having like the top two, I was like, oh man, like, because I was texting with SPD again, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be Christian, right? Like, it's got to be Christian. And then it wasn't Christian, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I was a little bit ahead of him and I hope I didn't spoil it, but I was a little bit ahead of him in the on the stream, and I was like, No way. I was so excited. I popped maybe harder for that than any other match just because of the surprise factor. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, like he's finally getting a chance. Like that's awesome. Like he's
Yep.
a young guy, deserves it. He's in the ring. Talent is. We all agree. Like he's going to be a cornerstone in AEW. And
Agreed.
this is a big moment. And even if he doesn't beat Kenny, like whatever, he's 23 years old, 24 years old, young guy.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I
Just
mean,
the opportunity to get in the ring with the champ,
yeah,
have a match where they're gonna tear the roof down.
for sure.
And the crowd's gonna be so hot for that. There's gonna be a lot of people wanting to see JB dethrone Kenny. That would be a really fun,
especially
down
after
the
that
road
last
match, man.
There was some,
It just feels like the right call from like a company health perspective, right? Like
Yeah.
you're building guys from you look at Darby Allin, got a big win tonight. You look at Hangman Adam Page, got a big win tonight. Britt Baker, big win tonight. You're looking at a lot of these. Sammy Guevara got the pin,
Yeah.
right? You're seeing like purposefully trying to establish these homegrown,
every match.
Yeah.
right? Over and over and over again. I really like that the overall theme of this show where you get to see them leaning into their own stars and not all these other names that obviously Miro came out on top tonight, but Miro is presented in such a different way right now.
He's a different
in
character.
AEW. He's just a totally different guy than what he was in his past. So I don't know. I feel like they did a really nice job. When we talk about changing the landscape, you are really changing the landscape of this company for the rest of this calendar year and beyond with with the moves that they made in tonight's show. Very smart booking, setting up potential big pushes down the road, and JB no bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
When
we
we talk about this is where we were bummed out, right, SPD? This felt like a moment that could have been.
This is definitely a moment that could have been. Well, first off, like you talked about before, Uncle Sam, Cody himself coming out, I thought it was a pretty sick jacket, pretty sick look. But all in all, like, I don't know if this was the placement of it or what, man. It just seemed like a slow pace to the match. It didn't hit the way we wanted. I guess my expectations were much higher. For what it's worth, a GoGo's third match ever, he wrestled great. I mean, the guy's got charisma. He's got the attitude. He's got the look. And he's a high flyer, too, apparently, with that big frog splash that he threw. So that was unexpected, especially with bruised ribs or whatever, or potentially broken ribs that he had. So that was a nice surprise to see. But I would have liked to see a little bit more false finishes, a little bit closer fought battle, suck the crowd in a little bit more. But obviously the crowd went berserk at the end with Cody going in the crowd and things like that. How could you not? I agree. It did fall flat as well. And it's a bummer because I was so excited for this one. And it was so excited to see a GoGo get elevated. Granted, he's still green in the game of professional wrestling, but he's showing, star power in numbers for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I hate
it's a bummer.
Go ahead, Bonds. Yeah,
it's okay.
It really disappoints me. This felt like a Rocky movie where Rocky is fighting somebody that's only been boxing for 6 months, and then he celebrated like he beat Dolph Lundgren at the end. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it felt for me. And I feel like the factory, they got Nexus. I said that to SPD. The first thing I said to him was like, "Oh man, factory got Nexus. They're done." Because now QT lost to Cody. At Blood and Guts, QT lost, and now GoGo lost, and GoGo was being treated with such care. He was being treated with such care. Again, you don't need to have this. This isn't a necessary match, in my opinion. I get it. It's Memorial Day weekend and Cody's, Captain America.
They leaned into that so hard, that aesthetic. Oh my God. It was like he was the Homelander from The Boys. He the blonde hair and all. He looked like it was just wow.
Right. And this just wasn't a necessary match. And it stops the factory in their tracks.
Yeah. And I know you're very sensitive about that because, like, you've
seen too many
seen
people-
promising groups
Yeah.
get their momentum cut out from underneath them on a moment like this. And you're right. I mean, QT Marshall, I was loving the work that he's been doing on the mic. His
course.
character work has been absolutely phenomenal. And for him to go down to Cody at Blood and Guts, you're like, okay, well, the leader lost. So that really cuts a lot of their momentum. And then as Bonds talked about, I mean, GoGo was portrayed as the killer of this group, man. GoGo was portrayed as like the stud of this group. And it wasn't just that he lost, but it was that he lost, and it wasn't like what was the story of this match? Normally Cody's matches have these like epic builds, these complex, heart-wrenching stories. I didn't see, like, I was expecting something to happen with GoGo's eye. I was expecting I was expecting Cody to be challenged to a point where he had to like go to his wrestling roots, maybe like to adapt to the, like, a GoGo, maybe dominates the beginning of the match with his pure boxing and his punching and power ability, and Cody, out of desperation, has to like come up with a strategy on the spot to avoid a stand-up brawl and then lean more into mat-based wrestling or something like that. There was no overarching story to this match where the psychology was missing. And I felt like it really hurt the product in that regard. It hurt this match in the way that it came across. I picked a GoGo to win this because I felt like this was an opportunity to put that stamp on this guy and say we're going all in with him.
Sure.
I didn't think that Cody needed the win, but I do see the greater aesthetic that they played into. I get that they were trying to push the patriotic angle, the American dream, all of that, and being able to digest the match results and think about it. GoGo is very green and very, very new to wrestling. And if they are to build off of this, where, he comes out hungrier, that, he basically plays into, Cody, I'm 2-0, like I was 2-0 before I met you, and like really like plays into that he was inexperienced. He learned from this and he wants a rematch, maybe. But I, like you guys, I'm kind of wondering, is this the end of that feud? Is this the end of the family versus the Nightmare family versus the Factory? Because I don't know where they go from here with this one. I really don't.
Well, I don't know if you saw the announcement, but Camarado versus Dustin Rhodes is going to be a bull rope match, which they've been teasing for a while. So that's still getting pushed. But obviously then Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus QT and GoGo again in a tag. So you still have that being pushed. But how do you salvage it? Where do you go from, even if the Factory get a clean sweep on Dynamite, do you think that gives them momentum back? I mean, it has to.
All that I'm seeing is in Bonds, I can see it in your face. I can tell that you're there's a part of you inside that just wants to just like a volcano come out on this one. All that I'm seeing is a common theme that the Factory can hang with and beat the Nightmare family underlings. They can beat the Gun Club. GoGo he can look like a killer when you throw him in the ring with Austin Gunn. But
sure, he did.
But as soon as they get to Cody level, they're not a threat. And that's the way that they've been presented at this point now, and that's a bummer because I love what these guys. I love the potential of the Factory.
Of course,
just looking at the story that AEW has told me, Cody should not be sweating these guys at all anymore. I mean, he proved. I mean, to me, it's been pretty convincing. He's proven that he's the top dog, and so do they continue to be a nuisance to him and his family? It seems like that's going to continue. But when you talk about a believable, compelling storyline, this took a big step back. I felt like even though it would have been an incredibly heelish move by the company almost to have a guy who's been talking trash about the United States for months on end to win on Memorial Day weekend and put Cody down.
Yeah.
That could have been a nuclear heat moment where you can't pay.
Yes, it really could.
You can't buy that kind of heat.
No.
They could, and if GoGo would have gone in there and left Cody bloody and even like
knockout,
disgusting, like
Mhm.
blow his nose on the U.S. flag and throw it in the ring, spit on it, spit on Cody. You do something where you talk about nuclear level heat. That could have catapulted a GoGo and the factory into an area of detestable guys that would have been really, really compelling and interesting television. Now, I don't see anything coming out of this story that is remotely that engaging. I think the bull rope match between Nick Comoroto and Dustin will be a well-fought match. We know that Dustin is a pro, and he's really smart in the ring. And he's always enjoyable when he gets an opportunity to have psychology in a match. But I think that the AEW, this was the one moment where it felt like, man, they really, and me talking about it throughout the show over and over and over again, it felt like AEW was saying, we're going to build younger stars. We're going to build stars and establish names. This could have been an opportunity where they did that, and I just don't think that they did.
And it was a whole stable.
Yeah. Bonds, I'll let you kick this one off, man.
Yeah, you can wrap that last one up. If it has a bad taste in your mouth, I know talking Miro will make you happy. So
this will cheer me right up. And I'm sorry, SPD, because I know you're a Lance guy, but
I'm an Archerholic, Murder Hawk maniac.
Oh yeah, but man, I thought this match was another great one, another fun match. I think the ending was a little weird. It didn't really lead to a finish, but overall, these guys were brutal. They're two of the biggest monsters in the company. We saw the three big monsters wrestle tonight. Last night we saw Cage, and we saw Miro and Lance, and I think that overall, I was surprised at how big of a pop Miro got. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. We saw it on Friday, when we heard the Miro's going to kill you chants against Dante.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
fans are smart. Fans are not. Yeah, they're smart.
They get it. Especially AEW fans are smart. I've gotten some arguments with some non-smart fans today, but I think that the fans that were at the arena last night were very smart. And man, Miro just looks like a guy. Okay, they're going all in again. It's
good.
It's something. I'm kind of bummed that Lance kind of got fed to the wolf here. Because that seems to happen to him all the time. That's like his thing now. But I'm very happy that they didn't immediately pull the plug on Miro too. So I'm happy and I'm bummed just because I would have been okay with either of these guys winning. I think that both of them are bankable superstars. And I think that it was interesting that Jake got involved. When Jake got involved, and Miro just threw his snake out.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
dude,
that was like something else. I was like, "Holy smoke!" Talk about a nuclear heat moment where you're like,
and he got cheered.
Yeah, I got cheered. Like he just took the bag with the snake and launched it as far as he could. I was like, "Oh my god, dude!"
I was like, "No!"
Oh my god!
The commentary was like, "By God!" and everybody was just cheering for him. And I was like, "Man, like this match is not going how they expected." Which is funny. I like that it worked like that, and I'm curious to see if they do pivot here with Miro at all, just because of how much he's getting pops.
That's a good question, because I think this would be a great bigger topic discussion now that fans are back pretty much close to full force. Who do you see naturally transitions to babyface heel?
All the championships right now are on heels.
I know, but based on crowd reaction, obviously we talk about DMD clearly. Now Miro, getting the huge pops, the Acclaim getting huge pops, 2 or 3 huge heels in the pandemic era of fans. Now that our fans are out, boom, you have this massive pop by smart AEW fans.
You're right.
And so who do you, and then there could be pops that you would expect that you don't get, you know, for someone I don't know. I don't have any specific examples. I didn't expect to hear the Varsity Blondes get such a big pop.
Huge pop.
So
Huge spot for the
obviously
varsity
they're
Blondes.
very, very likable. But yeah, so Bonds, I mean, you can continue your thought, but like, I mean, this match started off so strong. It was awesome. I liked how Lance started right off the belt. The crowd was hot for both guys right away, you know, and then you can feel a transition of the crowd. Right away, Murderhawk showing his agility. He attempted that moonsault. He did that backflip tightrope walk. It was awesome, man. Truly monster versus monster. And this was the hardest one for me to watch because, like, this is obviously a dream match on paper, but I kept saying, you rushed it. Slow it down.
Stretch it out.
Yeah,
baby.
so it was really brutal. You know, I thought it was going to go to a time limit draw because they brought it up. The announcers were like, "Oh, this is different than other pay-per-view events because the TNT title has 20-minute time limit matches." So I was like, "Okay, they're covering their tracks. Maybe it will be a time limit draw as it should." And then Bonds, you got up. You're like, "This is kind of an abrupt finish when we were talking, and maybe Archer got hurt or something." I don't know. Did you see anything that really could have triggered a quick? I thought it was a relatively quick finish because Archer was fighting back. Then all of a sudden, when he yanked it back, he was just out like pretty quick. Like he almost got out of the hold.
The game over is quickly becoming, I mean, especially with the new intensity that Miro's locking that baby in, that is quickly becoming one of the more fierce and scary finishers in all of AEW, man. Like, he did have it locked in the Murder Hawk when he was trying to put it, you know, and Lance was starting to break away. But as soon as Miro transitioned into the full body arc, it was over, man. You know, and for me, like, I feel like Miro is a guy who his natural charisma, he's proven time and again, the crowds just love the guy. It doesn't matter what gimmick he has. It doesn't matter if he's a video gamer, if he's a Bulgarian brute. It doesn't matter. The guy just oozes natural charisma. He gets it. And throughout this match, you know, he come on, go. You know, he knows how to get a live crowd fired up and amped up. I love that about him. And so there's a natural, like, for him, even though he took Damian and launched him about 50 yards up stage, like, he could beat up Jake. He could beat up a Hall of Famer. People just love the guy because he's naturally funny. Yeah. He's just naturally a charismatic guy. And I think that the same thing we're finding with the DMD. She could tell me to my face, "You're a fat, dumb mark." And I'd still think, "You're awesome. Thank you." Like, there's just certain characters in the landscape and you just know, SPD, like, when you meet people, there's certain people who just are charismatic. They know how to steal the room whenever they're in it. Miro's that kind of guy. He's just naturally hilarious. It's no wonder why he's the TNT. Like, having him be on these crossovers with TNT for the NBA, like, went viral. You know, talking about how he could bench press Luka Doncic, you know, 75 times, and, like, you know, he just is naturally a funny guy. And so I get why Miro won this one, even though we're Murder Hawk maniacs here at Dynamite Download. When you look at, like, the TNT Championship and what it represents, you need a guy who can transcend wrestling. And Murder Hawk is a guy who I love his work. I think that he's incredibly intelligent. I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for creating a layered character who can be babyface 1 minute and then heel the next minute, and who could lose multiple big matches in the course of his career and still feel like a big deal. I mean, he's lost to Cody, he's lost to Moxley, he's lost all these big opportunities, and he's still. I know Lance is going to recover from this just fine. I have less worry about him than I thought I was going to. I was worried. I was worried about them booking themselves into a corner.
Sure, me too.
With Lance and Miro here, and knowing Murder Hawk's story, seeing him come up short over and over again, I thought that would hang like a black cloud over him moving forward if he lost this match. After seeing the way it played out, I don't see that. I think that he's going to recover just fine. I think that he's just got this natural presence to him. He's so unique in the landscape of AEW when it comes to big men. I think he's going to be fine. I do. I think it's going to take some time for him to be believable as a challenger for a title again. But I also think that, Lance has made us forget rather quickly in past big matches that he lost them.
Yeah.
He just has this dominant presence to him that I think when you combine that with his awesome entrance theme, his intensity, there's a lot there that I still think he'll be able to navigate this and come out looking good at the end. I do.
Yeah, I mean, this was Archer's double or nothing because he had 2 shots at the TNT title chant and nothing. So it's a
Good point.
tough predicament for that. Without overthinking this, specifically directing this comment to Crayfish, we'll start with Bonds. Who do you want to see Miro face next as not a necessarily nothing against Dante Martin, not as like a Dante Martin competitor, as like a legitimate competitor that when they lose, because Miro's going to be go on a tear. When they lose, it won't hurt him as bad. Who would you want to see? Yes, like maybe all out Brian Cage, but too soon. Like at the short term, who would you like?
Max Caster.
Okay.
I think that'd be really fun because Miro, if he is transitioning potentially as a babyface, I would like to see Max kind of go in on him, make fun of him a little bit, maybe call back.
I would love it.
Call back some stuff that happened in WWE because there was some funny storylines with him at the very end there.
Yep.
You could kind of play that up, and I think that Miro could kind of go over against him. Could go over as a face, and that's how he's a guy that I think that you could really push Miro, because Max gets gonna get those pops when he's doing his raps, but I think in the ring he's still gonna be
heel.
And he's still gonna get that heel.
His wrestling style, his wrestling style too, Bonds. That's a good call because his wrestling style is still very slow down heel tactics. And when you talk about a guy like Miro and his big personality, you got to have somebody who can hold up to that. You can't have somebody who's just kind of in the back, who could get overshadowed so easily by a guy like Miro, his charisma and over the top sense. So I think Caster's a great pick by you because he feels like he's on the ascent. And just getting those kind of opportunities will be really good for him in his credibility long term.
Sure.
And I think that the promo work would be fantastic between those two guys. That's a great pick by you. Honestly, that was my first thought.
Okay.
Was Max. I think that's a great pick by Bonds. Other than that, dude, I think honestly, I really dig the way that I think that the Dark Order needs something. So I think that 10 is a guy who
I was going to say 10
would be a really interesting matchup just because not just because of the Dark Order and not they're kind of in a murky, where are they going stage of their careers. But I feel like the 10 versus Miro from a body standpoint, from a power standpoint,
it would be fun.
I think that would be really fun. I think if Miro's title reign has more of Hoss battles than him just destroying little guys like Dante, I want to see more of that. I want to see him take on a Powerhouse Hobbs. I want to see him take on a Preston Vance. I want to see him go toe to toe with Brian Cage down the road. I want to see those Hoss battles.
I would love to see just for pure battle. Obviously, it won't be more of a stretch feud like a Luchasaurus versus Miro, and more of a feud. Feud would be fun with Penta. I think because Penta's in ring comedic stuff and joking around,
very
and
charismatic showman,
very
good call.
Yes, and so I think that would be pretty funny. Miro would
I like that.
Not take that and just kick him in the face and not let him get that. So I think Penta, Luchasaurus, 10, Max, those are all great ones for sure.
I like all those picks, man. Those are all really good picks. Thinking like you just said. I mean, you think about can you imagine Penta's chops to Miro's chest? Those two could go at it. And that's what I want to see. I want guys that I think we all named guys. That would push Miro in different areas. Bonds was definitely thinking about from a personality standpoint. Max Caster and Miro would be a great fit, from a promo battle and personality. But you and I are in lockstep, SPD, guys that could push Miro in the ring Luchasaurus against him would be fun. Like,
Yeah.
I think that Penta is a great pick, even though he's not this big powerhouse. His offense, his strikes are scary good, dude. That would be a really good matchup. I like that.
That's for sure, man. And let's transition to the former TNT Championship. And the first time we were seeing it's Sting in the ring. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we all picked Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky to win, or did anyone have Sting and Darby? Or no, Craig, I think you had Sting and Darby, right?
I had Sting and Darby. I had Sting and Darby to win this one.
I couldn't remember.
Yep.
But for story purposes, I chose that. I mean, obviously in front of a sold-out crowd, like two of the biggest pops that have been getting over the last 3 months, Darby and Sting, everything they've been doing with the small but mighty crowds, and now a sold-out crowd. They deserve it, of course. In Sting's return, they deserve it, of course. This was actually a pretty Sting really impressed me, man. I mean, first off, the promo work, the cinematography that we got out of that pre-match promo with Darby and Sting. He picks him up. It's showtime. That was awesome, man. Another well-done promo by Darby Allin. I'm sure he had all his hands in that, and Sting to really kick it off. And Darby's war paint, mimicking kind of like a lighter Stings on there when he came out was really awesome. And it started off with a bang. And, man, Sting doing the frog splash off the top, taking those bumps and popping right back up on the bump on the stage at Sting's age. I wouldn't want to take that at any age, and then him to pop up and then do that stinger splash pretty much off, onto both guys off the poker chips. Man, this is awesome. They got the crowd going for sure.
The stinger splashes were on point tonight. He was killing it with the stinger splashes. Bonds, you picked All Ego and Scorpio Sky to win this one?
No, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, sorry. I thought more of us picked that. I was just the dark horse. I was pulling the crayfish heel.
Yeah, I thought that the story made most sense. Even though I wanted Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky to win this, I felt like just talking about feel-good moments on the show. First time seeing Sting wrestling in front of a large audience like that. Darby coming off the heels of a loss, basically losing his TNT titles because of these two guys.
Right.
The redemption story made so much sense here, and I think that All Ego and Scorpio Sky are, now that they're the men of the year. They're a newly formed team. They can afford a loss against an icon like Sting and really one of the biggest, most authentic stars that's starting to develop on the AEW roster at Darby Allin. I felt like this, even though I'm all in with All Ego, I felt like this was an easy way to give the crowd something to cheer about and to be excited about and have these guys go over. I thought it made a lot of sense. The storyline, the card couldn't have gone better as far as having those two guys kind of send those two jerks with their tails between their legs with a good win for the fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, I agree. I don't think Sting could lose this match up.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me, especially after what they did to Darby. You can't have Darby have them go over on Darby again in a way it wouldn't have worked. And if you're trying to keep Darby at that level, if you're planning on dropping him to the mid card, then have him lose again. But you can't. But obviously they've invested way too much in this guy, and his vignettes are so good, and there's so much creativity there, and he brings that into the ring as well. But man, I mean, they have something with him that is just really impressive in terms of just a guy that I want him to do everybody's vignettes. If he's doing all this stuff every time, I want him to direct them. I want him to write them. I want him to do everything because he's
so good, dude.
They're top notch for sure.
Oh, exactly. They're awesome. And I think that this match lived up as well. Sting looked 30 years younger. There's no sign that guy is in his 60s.
Gosh,
he looked awesome. And
that's a great thing too, Bonds. We've talked about that. Pairing him up with Darby, it helps Darby in a lot of ways. Obviously, it helped give Darby backup because Darby has gotten, as a smaller guy who was the TNT champion, he had a lot of people come out of the woodwork to want to take him down. It gave him the ultimate guy who knows how to defend off gang beatings. In the course of his WCW career, he had a lot of those moments. But this is one of those rare relationships that's a win-win on both sides, because you get to have Sting in these moments where he can make the save, be the hero, and then even in a match setting, you have Darby, who's this young workhorse who can just genuinely seems to like get better as he gets beaten up throughout the match. Right, he just gets better and better, and you have Sting come in and make those hot tags, and really from a visual standpoint, watching the documentaries of Ultimate Warrior that have come out recently, you get to see, Sting and Warrior, really the beginnings of their career was as a team. And you forget how big the Stinger is. But when he started out, man, that dude was a bodybuilder when he came into pro wrestling. That dude is a big boy. And when you have him paired up with a guy like Darby, even though Sting's in his 60s, physically he looks that much more compelling because he's with a smaller guy. And he gets those hot tags after Darby gets beaten down and takes all that offense. He can get those hot tags, come in like a wrecking ball, knock people around, show off some of his power, hit those big Stinger splashes, and it's a win-win for everybody, right? And so I felt like this was one of those home run matches across the board. Sky and Paige came out looking better because they hung with like two guys that we know are established top tier guys in the company. And it also gives more motivation for this feud to continue. If Darby and Sting lost this and Sky and Paige won, where do they go from here in the story, right? They cost Darby the title for the TNT championship. These guys got the convincing win in a tag setting. It's kind of the story is over. This gives Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, they go back, they lick their wounds, they drop in the rankings a little bit. It's a blow to their egos, which is needed. And it gives Page, especially the guy who is sworn that he's going to be the nail in Darby's coffin. It gives him that much more anger and motivation to like want a piece of Darby again, because the last thing in our minds now is them losing. So I think that this is one of those where it keeps that story fresh, keeps pouring gas on that fire. And I think that one's going to be a story that develops and gets hotter and hotter as we go into the summer. I really like that. The characters work really well off each other. I think that this is a story that I don't want to see go away anytime soon. I really like what they're doing with this story arc between these two teams.
I mean, All Ego almost did put the final nail in his coffin when he threw him into the freaking crowd. Oh my gosh. That was amazing. That was just you don't realize, like, obviously Ego's a pretty big guy, but like the strength of him, and Darby's not by any means a Scorpio Sky build or someone like, a typical wrestling build. He's a smaller guy.
He's a small guy,
but to throw someone that far, anybody that far, was very impressive. And, Scoot brought up a good point. I almost forgot about that. One of my favorite spots was that double submission and then slapping in the face of each other. Just
sweet.
Slap, slap, slap.
Yes.
I was just like, yes, this is so awesome.
That was
I
sweet.
absolutely love that part. And you're the more you're talking about Crayfish, like, it doesn't make sense for obviously the crowd pop purpose, the end on a good note purpose, but for the heels to chase them again, chase a little bit more, and the future possible one-on-one match, Ethan Page and Darby, and some kind of like no DQ thing like him and Matt Hardy had, I could see having on a Dynamite, which would be very entertaining as well. So this was a great way. I mean, to be there for live would have been outstanding. The pop for Sting, the pop at the end, really loved it. But before we transition to our last segment, the co-main event, since they were co-main events, the title, the triple threat, the first triple threat ever in AEW for a title, we'll announce our bingo card winner. So Crayfish, I think you got the user handle. We were doing a lot of fact checking. Please correct us if we're wrong. I know we got a lot of submissions, but it came down to the tiebreaker of who got the pin, because we had a couple 9 out of 10s. And thank you everyone for submitting. This was a lot of fun. We're going to do this a little bit more consistently, I think, because everyone's great interacting with you and just adding more touch to it. I was like checking my card, I was checking your guys' card, and be like, oh man, I'm like, and I was like 1-4 to start off the night or something, and I slowly picked up, and then I was cheering. We should offer, like, if there's a battle royal, like bonus points, like you get 2 extra bonus points for picking.
You get the battle royal winner, right? That's a tough one. And the person who won this week, the person who won this got the battle royal correct. Bill's Mafia, STF, also better known as QT Sopranos Bada Bing Factory. I love the name. I love the Twitter handle.
Are you sure this wasn't you, Crayfish?
But in disguise, you can send it to me. I love the fact that QT Sopranos Bada Bing Factory won this one. And it came down to 9 out of 10, but it came down to the fact that they got the tiebreaker right. Sammy gets the pin.
Right.
That was the tiebreaker, and it held true. That was what separated. We had, like you said, we had like 3 or 4 submissions that got 9 out of 10. Yes. So some really smart AEW, some really smart AEW fans out there. But
yes, smarter than us, clearly.
Yeah, my side account got it correct. So obviously a GoGo, if they wouldn't have been so diehard of Factory fans and maybe picked Cody, they would have gone 10 for 10 on this one. But so QT Sopranos Bada Bing Factory, we're going to reach out to them on Twitter, make sure that we get that swagger to them, because when you get those right, and they got JB right as the battle royal winner. Props to them for that big one, that big win. I know that there's some people out there who are probably devastated. They thought they were counting their chickens before they hatched, thought that they had it. But that tiebreaker really was what the difference maker in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And this was essentially a tiebreaker for us, Dynamite Download, the triple threat. We each went with our gut. We each picked a different person, and that was an even fun part to it. Like I said, I didn't look at your guys' picks. I already made my picks. Then I opened up the text with you guys sending it, and Crayfish did a little bit of an audible at the end and stayed true to his heart, which was the right thing to do, man. This match, Pac did not go down without a fight. I mean, he took 4 belt shots to the face for this.
That was brutal, dude.
I thought the crowd was hot for this. It was such a funny comedic start to some of the funny moments for me. Was when Orange Cassidy was doing his kicks, and then Pac just kicks him straight in the nuts as hard as he can. I was laughing so hard, man. This was an insane match. Some insane spots by all 3 guys. It's a lot of top rope stuff. So many false finishes. Don Callis on commentary was pure gold. That 300. This is Sparta boot that Kenny Omega gave Pac into the turnbuckle was absolutely brutal.
I know.
Oh my gosh, it was like this whiplash.
I know.
Oh man, I want to see a rematch of this because it was outstanding. These 3 guys, the crowd was hot for Orange Cassidy. Pac almost won, then Orange Cassidy tried to steal the victory. Then Orange Cassidy almost won, and then Don Callis pulled him out. So it's like everything was in play for this one, and it delivered as a co-main event should.
Without a doubt, this was my favorite match of the night, and that's even
the favorite match of the night.
Well, it
doesn't.
I mean, honestly, dude, this was amazing. This was such a damn good match, man. I mean, like Pac's selling doesn't get I don't know if he gets enough credit for. He looks like he's getting murdered half the time. I mean, and when he got blasted by the 4 total belts, there was a point when he was like literally bent over. Like I looked insanely painful just the sell job of it. His offense is also on another tier. I was just fascinated by the way this match played out. All 3 of us picked different people. At first, I was going to pick Kenny because I felt like the writing was on the wall. He's gonna be a long champion. But I had to go with my guy, and I thought that he held his own in this match. The story was great. Even when you go to like the early on segment of building up the hype in this one at the pay-per-view, the triple screens of all 3 of those guys on the screen. Yeah. Pac doing push-ups, Orange Cassidy just hanging out, kind of chilling. Like it played all into their characters, and the differences in their characters really it shaped the narrative of the match. And that was what was like, that is such a huge part of like, tell us a story. tell us a story. Don't just have it be this in-ring action like that, like, you know, moves being done.
Right.
And I love how the unique aspects of these guys' characters played off of each other so well to tell this beautiful story of, like, you know, Kenny continued to, like, do his underhanded tactics. Pac was really, I felt like the brutal bastard. He showed out who he is in this match, you know, busting out a 450 off the top. You know, you're seeing, like, you know, his drop gun shot, his drop kicks off the top where he hit, like, Orange Cassidy, then hit Kenny Omega, then hit them both 3 in a row. Like, that was amazing. And Orange Cassidy, like, had those moments when at Bonds, you picked OC to win. And I felt like, you know, as this story was going on, I was like, Bonds might be right. This might happen.
Right.
This might actually happen. He had some real moments that stole the match. I feel like if you're a fan of AEW and you watch this one, it just gave you everything that you could hope for. It was just an absolutely, I loved this match from start to finish. I thought that it gave you great in-ring action, great humor, great false finishes. Great commentary.
Yep.
I mean, everything across the board. I can't say enough. I absolutely loved this match. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love that Kenny's getting go away heat too.
He is
Legit. Like he is. Like they were chanting boring at him at the end of that match.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, dude. The fans were, when he was like hitting everybody with the belts, they were chanting boring at him, like, which is crazy to me. Like, wow, like he's getting that much hate, and that's awesome. And like he's so good at it.
For being so universally recognized as being so amazing, the fact that he's somehow found a way to get go away heat is pretty
this
impressive.
Quick too.
Yeah.
He hasn't been the belt collector for long too, and
Right.
he's getting that much heat. And so usually you have that on a Roman Reigns kind of title run where it's like, oh, it's the same thing over and over and over. But this was, I love that he came out with all the gold around him. That was just so classy. And then
really
Justin
cool.
Roberts, the pre-show announcements in the ring too. Not from North Carolina.
I knew you'd be popping for that one, no doubt. Yeah.
All of them were great. And then all of a sudden he announced Orange Cassidy goes and walks away really quick. Like he just comes in the center of the ring, gives a quick thumb up and walks away. Oh, that's why the whole beginning part was so hilarious to me, and then it started getting serious. But the comedic parts of this match were outstanding, and then followed by the comedic parts in the Stadium Stampede. Like my face was like hurting because I was laughing and smiling so much overall, and just excited because of the card that was put on. If you're, I don't know, this can stack up against any show. Like I told you on the phone, Crayfish, I said A+,
Yep.
AEW's best pay-per-view they've put out to date. Buckle up. And so what would you grade this pay-per-view, both of you guys, being a critique from an overall card? What would you grade it? Letter grade.
Go ahead, bud, because you didn't get a chance to talk about this match much.
Yeah, I want to
either,
hear your take on this more.
I got to give my feedback. You know, I love this, and it's going to definitely inflate the grade a little bit based off of that. But Bonds, tell us a little bit about the match itself, what you thought, where and how it impacts the characters and the landscape moving forward, and then give us your grade, and then I'll jump in.
So I think the biggest takeaway from this match is that it showed that Orange Cassidy belongs in that upper tier. And that that's huge because, you know, building up a baby face like him that the crowd was so behind.
So hot.
That's big. And they did that multiple times last night. They did that with Sammy. They did that with Jungle Boy. Like they did that, you know, with 3 baby faces that they're like, okay, these guys are our guys.
Great call.
These are our guys that we built and they're going to be the future.
Great call.
And, I think that was really telling. And the fact that he didn't win, again, like I said before, I think that the reason I picked him was the reason why Jungle Boy got that opportunity as well. I think that was kind of, I picked the wrong match for that. But the sentiments were the same. Where, you know, he got the pin. And Don Callis got in there and interfered. Like he had the pinfall win there. That was it.
Yep.
And they said it on commentary, like, oh man, like he stole the win from Orange Cassidy. Like that was his title at that point. And that whole match was just back and forth, constant. So many close calls, so many breakups, and just oh my goodness. And then once Don started having a heart attack and got off the mic, I was like, oh well, here we go. Here's Don getting involved, and here's my boy get on there, probably costing me the bingo card, and he did. Thank you, Don Callis. I don't know if I can be a fan of yours anymore.
Yeah, I know. Brilliant though. It was
still
so
hilarious,
funny.
and he again, man, he adds so much. I love how smart, and this is something that we haven't talked about, but I'm going to give them props for this. I think AEW is so smart about how they put on guest commentators. It's never for no reason. It always helps the story, and it's always elevating. It works so well, and it's like they have all these guys that they can put on there, and there's other companies that can't find anybody to be their main commentator. If you watch Monday shows,
Just shuffling through names,
just shuffle whoever you want. But AEW has people that are experienced and
we just got Mark Henry announced.
Yeah, Mark Henry's
sexual chocolate baby.
Oh my God! Like, and if you listen to Busted Open, I mean, the Busted Open is so good at what they do. You got Mark Henry added to the mix. It's just awesome. Like it's such a brilliant move. They know what they're doing, man. AEW really is smart with this. Even
eye for talent. Eye for talent. Everybody they pick, there isn't anybody that I can see on the roster where I'm questioning why they're there. And that's so good. You just know that they have their head together when it comes to building what they have. And again, this match was another example of that. Kenny kept that title, and I think that was probably the right call. That was probably the right call to keep that there, especially when the Young Bucks, retained as well. I thought that if the Bucks lost, then and I also picked the Bucks to lose. So that would have been interesting, where the Elite go from being the Elite to being the what?
Who are we anymore? Yeah, who are we anymore? Like, how can we call ourselves the Elite? We all lost. That, like, the story of like madness going on. That's a really good point. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Right, exactly. So when that happened, it's like, oh man, like what was going through my head is, oh man, my bingo card's still.
Yeah,
because I was like, but again, the match, it didn't matter because they sold me when the match started. I all that went away because, again, like you said, the longer the match went on, the more I was like, oh man, like I might have been right on here because this was like, there was points where I was like, oh wow, like he got so many close, like 2.5, where I thought that was going to be a 3 count. Like 100%, I thought it was going to be a 3 count, and Pac as well.
When he had Brutalizer locked in, I mean, there were moments where I was like, "Oh, this is my." I mean, like, I knew, I felt like the story going into this match was obvious. Like, Pac and Kenny are presented as these intense rivals who recognize each other as peers, and I loved seeing that aspect of it reinforced in the way this match played out. Pac brought the pain. Those guys, like he does what he does best. I mean, he was able to do what he does best, and that's add an intensity to any match that he's in, any moment that he's in. Pac injects it with this anger and intensity that you can't put your finger on with many other talents in the world. He's very unique in that. And when you pivot, you kind of play off of that with a guy like Orange Cassidy, who brings so much humor, natural humor, which is very hard to do in wrestling, like actually be funny.
Without saying anything.
Yeah, it just worked. It worked so well as Kenny kind of being the glue that held those two pieces of the two sides of the pendulum together. I felt like, and you to piggyback off your comment with the commentary, like it's so important that our commentators are authentic and bring credibility to the product. And so many of these guys automatically have that credibility with lifelong wrestling fans. Tony Schiavone, JR, Taz, Paul White, now Mark Henry, Don Callis. You're naming guys that we've seen be integral parts of professional wrestling for a long period of time.
Sure.
That immediately gives credibility. And the way that this match played out, you talked about it, Bonds. One of the most iconic moments of this whole pay-per-view which was filled with jaw-dropping moments, was when Don Callis lost his shit at the end of that match and felt like oh no, he's gonna lose, and it just felt genuine and authentic. Throwing his mic off, rushing from the commentator's booth, having all 4 of those belts to play off of what SPD talked about with Kenny Omega's entrance, having all those belts, and then Kenny blasting Pac, and even as the biggest diehard Pac fan on the planet, to have your guy lose a match like that after getting hit in the face 4 times with championship belts, it doesn't hurt him. Nobody, and this is one of those rare moments where it's like nobody came out looking worse for the wear. All these characters came out looking better. Orange Cassidy, as Bonds pointed out, not only was it presented as a peer, but with the pop and the crowd reaction that he was getting, there's some real promise of like, wow, this guy could carry a program. This guy could be a guy who could be a top tier star. And it just, everybody across the board looked great in this one. I thought this, again, at SPD, this was, for me, with grading it, weighs very heavily when you have a top tier, top of the card type of match like this, and it delivers. That goes a long way. Bonds, before I give off my grade, buy me some time, because SPD made it very clear to me this was A+ for him. He thought this was one of the best pay-per-views he's ever seen. Where do you rank in this one? Because I know you were disappointed with some of the matches too, right?
I was disappointed in one of the matches. I loved this show. To me, it is one of my favorite pay-per-views I've watched probably in 10 years, man.
Wow.
This is awesome.
Wow.
They absolutely put on a show. I'm not going to give it an A+, because I do have a slight bad taste in my mouth from the GoGo stuff in the factory, because I think they kind of just wasted that entire storyline. Even if that wasn't their intention, I think that that's the result. But I will give it an A. And I think it's a very strong A. And I think that the best match of the night for me was Stadium Stampede. And it was a 2-for-2 moment since when I've been watching AEW, when it comes to like the cinematic matches, like it is a 2-for-2, like they are killing it. This was a step up from the Team Taz match with Sting and Darby. This is a step up from that, in my opinion. This was better. This was top notch. The camera work was perfect, and the fact that it was the main event worked for me because of how well it went. It was perfect.
The pacing of that match. I love how AEW doesn't just let these big brawls turn into pure chaos, and they just seem like they're randomly trying to figure out who to go to. It feels like it's a story. They allow each moment and each pairing to have those big, like you talked about, SPD, the brawl between FTR and Santana Ortiz in the nightclub. Jake Hager and Wardlow fighting into the meat cooler. They allow those individual moments to take place where then you build memories off of them. The Shawn Spears versus Sammy, that duel with the chairs, was a beautiful aesthetic, really was smart. And it's a visual that will stick with us long after this pay-per-view. So very different, not just like these big brawls where people are laying around on the outside, allowing these two guys to have a pair of guys fighting in the ring, and then everybody else laying around on the outside or on the floor or whatever. Didn't have those moments. It just it felt like controlled chaos, which was really smart.
Just hard to do.
For me, when you look at like Britt Baker, the Britt Baker era finally happened. I'm excited about where she's going to take that division. I felt like the Brian Cage versus Hangman Page match was a great opening match. I really enjoyed that one. The only match I felt like the GoGo Cody match was not only just because of the booking, but it was a little bit of a bummer of the way it played out and the story of that match. I view this one in A territory. I'm anywhere from like 90% or higher. I'm A- to an A+.
You just can't give it a straight shot.
It's in an A. It's in the A territory for sure.
You are a teacher. You have to give a grade. You can't give. This is an A territory paper.
With that, Mike.
It's an 90, A territory.
Maybe a 90. I'll give it a 93. So that's right on the border of A- and A. I felt like
Unbelievable.
depending on the curve, I felt like there were moments. I'm not as the Stadium Stampede match had some lulls for me that I struggled with a little bit.
Yeah.
And it might have just been fatigue from like 4 hours of wrestling. Like
Right.
it could have just maybe a little bit of that set in at the end of the show. But overall, this was a pay-per-view that delivered on a lot of moments. And we joke a lot about like changing the landscape. I love when a show like this gives you two things, like the Roddy Piper thing, where it's like just when you start to think that you have all the answers, I change all the questions. I think AEW is changing a lot of the questions that we have on where certain characters are going and what the landscape of certain divisions are going to look like. I'm, as a tag team fan, like I'm very, very intrigued in what is going to happen next in a weird way. Like the belts didn't change hands. But like I'm really fascinated about where that division goes from here, and I like that feeling.
Sure.
DMD being a new champion, that obviously opens up all sorts of new doors. That's exciting as a fan, and that's great. But that one decision of keeping the belts on Mox or on the Young Bucks over Moxley and Kingston, although I didn't pick them to win it, I think that was much smarter than what I mean, where my head was leaning. I wanted the belts to change hands, and now after watching the show and thinking about it, that is a really decision that like was bold. That I'm really fascinated to see where they go from here with that. So a lot to digest. SPD, you said it was home run, absolute best show that you've seen. What else can you add to that hyperbole? Tell us.
I mean, it was just on fire to me from start to finish. And I think that's really elevating my decision to give that such high regards was just the hot crowd and the crowd coming back. Like, it definitely makes for it. Obviously, it would still be a home run banger show without a crowd, and they've been doing that consistently for over a year. But I think that just added more emotion and depth to the card. And it was almost a feel-good moment. And being the babyface that I am, it was almost a feel-good moment almost every single match. And so that's why I love it. And I love when heroes rise. As you know, I don't like, leaving shows where it's like, oh, what the heck? No, it's you're leaving the show.
All the kids being happy.
I mean, Jericho was on my Mount Rushmore. So the fact that we ride off into the sunset for the night singing Judas, what more could you ask for?
That's true. That is true, man. There were a lot of feel-good
Inner
moments
Circle
on the
squad
show,
for life.
So for a babyface like you, the babyfaces definitely had their moment to shine tonight.
Sure.
A lot of feel-good moments in this show. And I can understand why. I mean, like you felt so great afterwards. Like you have to just be grinning ear to ear. You got to see like a lot of cool moments that happen that reinforce the good guys can come out on top too.
Another one for the good guys. And on that note, we'll wrap things up. This was thank you guys for sticking to us and watching this on your Memorial Day weekend. God bless all of our troops, present, past, and future. Thank you for keeping us safe on this beautiful Memorial Day. We had an outstanding show yesterday, and hope everyone had a great, safe weekend. We will be back live with another live watch along on Friday, since there's no Dynamite on Friday night, or there's no Dynamite on Wednesday. So we're going to do a live watch along. We'll start that at 9:30, do a little pre-show again like we did last week, and we'll do our watch along. We'll try to keep our volumes to a little bit of minimum and join us to kick off the weekend, because we know AEW has trying to take our coveted Friday night flights 10 p.m. spot. So we're gonna fight back doing our watch along. So thank you everyone for participating in our Double or Nothing bingo card challenge. And man, it's a good time to be an AEW fan.
Amen,
we can't wait to talk to you guys all week and get your feedback. Now Crayfish has resurfaced. I'm sure he'll be pretty vocal with you guys in the next few days and stuff. But thank you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend and start of your week. And positive vibes from DD, because the landscape is changed, baby.
Stretch it out till Friday, guys. Stretch it out till Friday. See you then.
Change that landscape, baby.